She came from a small village, dreaming of a better life at university. But what was supposed to be her chance at success turned into a shocking journey of betrayal, heartbreak, and life-altering choices. Watch as Mia's dreams unravel in a world of glamour, secrets, and unexpected consequences. What happens when the life you've always wanted becomes a nightmare? Stick around to find out. Watch the full story to uncover the shocking truth. This is it. This is my chance. Mia took a deep breath as she stood at the gates of Sundale University, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. She had never been outside her small village before, and now, here she was, on the brink of a new life, far from the familiar fields and dirt roads she had grown up on. The large campus stretched out before her, its grand buildings and manicured lawns a world away from the modest home where she had lived all her life. Mia had always dreamed of a life beyond the constraints of her village. Her parents were hardworking, but they barely scraped by. The idea of university had always seemed so distant, so unattainable. But when Mia had received the scholarship to Sundale University, it felt like a miracle. She was the first in her family to leave the village for something as prestigious as this. It was her chance to change everything, for herself, for her family, and for her future. Growing up, Mia had always been the quiet, studious type. In her village, education was valued but often overshadowed by the need to work and help at home. Mia had always dreamed of something more, a life where she could do something meaningful, something that would make her proud. Her parents had sacrificed so much to help her get to this point. They had always told her that education was the key to escaping the limitations of their small village life. And now, Mia was ready to make that dream a reality. She could already picture her future, a successful career, maybe even traveling the world. But as she stepped into Sundale University, she couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. The students here seemed so different from the people she knew back home. They wore designer clothes, carried the latest gadgets, and walked with a sense of confidence that Mia had never experienced. Mia felt like an outsider, a girl from a small village suddenly thrust into this world of privilege. The campus was beautiful, yes, but everything seemed so foreign. She had never been to parties like the ones she had heard about, never owned anything expensive or flashy like the students around her. The thought of being surrounded by so many rich, confident people made her feel both excited and intimidated. Her dorm room was a small, simple space, but it felt like a home away from home. She had never shared a room with anyone before, and at first, it felt a little awkward. Her roommate, Rena, was a second-year student who had already settled into the rhythm of university life. Rena was outgoing, confident, and always surrounded by a group of friends. Mia admired her for her ability to fit in so easily, something that Mia had never been able to do back in her village. Rena was quick to make Mia feel welcome, introducing her to the social circles at Sundale. Mia was hesitant at first, unsure of whether she belonged in that world. But Rena assured her that she would fit in just fine, as long as she let herself be open to new experiences. "You're not in the village anymore, Mia," Rena would say. "This is a place where you can be whoever you want to be." It was during one of the first days at the university that Mia first noticed Luna, Zoe, and Clara, three of the most popular girls on campus. They were always surrounded by admirers, laughing, and chatting as though the world revolved around them. Luna, with her flawless skin and high-end fashion, Zoe, who seemed to be a magnet for every guy on campus, and Clara, who always had the latest gadgets and knew everyone. They were the kind of girls who seemed to have everything Mia had ever wanted. They were effortlessly beautiful, confident, and seemed to live in a world full of endless opportunities. Mia couldn't help but feel envious. In her village, beauty and charm weren't enough to get by, hard work and respect were valued above all else. But here, in this new world, it seemed like beauty, money, and popularity were everything. Mia felt like she would never measure up. "Maybe I need to change," she thought. "Maybe I need to look like them, act like them. Maybe then I'll fit in." Rena noticed Mia's curiosity about the popular girls and decided to introduce her to them. "You should come with me to the party tonight," Rena said with a mischievous grin. It's going to be amazing. You'll meet Victor. He's the most handsome guy on campus, and he's going to love you. Mia felt her stomach flutter at the thought. Victor was the son of a wealthy businessman, and everyone talked about him. He was charming, good-looking, and seemed to have it all. Mia had never been interested in boys back in her village, her focus had always been on her studies. But here, at Sundale University, boys like Victor seemed to have a way of drawing attention, and Mia found herself wondering what it would be like to be noticed by someone like him. The night of the party, Mia stood in front of her mirror, unsure of what to wear. She had never been the type to dress up, especially not for a party. Back in her village, clothes were simple, practical. But tonight, she wanted to fit in. She wanted to feel like she belonged. She put on a simple dress she had bought for the occasion and did her best to style her hair. She didn't have the high-end makeup or accessories that the other girls had, but she hoped it would be enough. When Mia entered the party, she was overwhelmed by the noise, the music, and the flashing lights. It was a far cry from the quiet nights she had spent in her village. People were dancing, laughing, and drinking. The atmosphere felt electric, like anything could happen. Mia wasn't sure what to make of it all, but she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. She had never been to a party like this before. This was a world Mia didn't know, but it was a world she was eager to explore. As soon as Mia arrived, Rena introduced her to the group. Luna, Zoe, and Clara welcomed her with open arms, and Mia quickly found herself swept up in the excitement of the night. But it was Victor who caught her attention the most. He was everything everyone said he was: charming, handsome, and full of confidence. As soon as he met Mia, he complimented her, making her feel special, something she had never felt before. As the night wore on, Mia found herself enjoying the attention. She danced, laughed, and felt like she was finally a part of something important. She wasn't just a village girl anymore. She was Mia, the girl everyone wanted to know. The feeling was intoxicating. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. But as the party went on, Mia began to notice something unsettling. Luna, Zoe, and Clara weren't just enjoying themselves, they were flirting, hanging on the arms of the boys at the party. It didn't feel real. It felt like a game, one they all knew how to play, and Mia was just starting to realize that she might be caught up in it. The night ended with Victor offering to drive Mia home. She accepted, her heart racing. This was the kind of life she had always dreamed of, the life she thought she deserved. But as Victor drove her back to campus, Mia couldn't help but wonder, is this really who I want to be? Mia woke up the next morning with a headache and a heavy heart. The events of the previous night were a blur. The music, the laughter, the dazzling lights, everything had felt so exciting, so alive. But now that the night was over, a sense of emptiness began to settle in her chest. She had always worked so hard to get to this point in her life, yet here she was, caught up in a world that didn't seem to care about her goals, her dreams. It felt like she was chasing something she didn't fully understand. But Mia couldn't help it. The attention she had received at the party had been intoxicating. She had never felt so noticed, so wanted. Victor, with his charm and good looks, had made her feel special in a way that was new to her. He had given her more attention in a few hours than any boy back in her village ever had. It was like a dream, and for the first time, Mia didn't want to wake up from it. As the days passed, Mia found herself drawn deeper into the world she had entered. Rena, Luna, Zoe, and Clara became her closest friends, and they welcomed her into their inner circle. Every weekend, they went to parties, attended extravagant events, and flaunted their wealth and beauty. Mia began to think that this was what life at university was all about. She was no longer the quiet, shy girl from the village. She was one of them now, one of the happening girls, confident, glamorous, and carefree. Victor became a constant presence in Mia's life. He texted her, took her out to dinner, and made her feel like the center of his world. Mia felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. For once, she wasn't just Mia from the village, she was someone important, someone who had the attention of the most popular guy on campus. And it felt good. But as time went on, Mia began to realize something disturbing. The more she spent time with Victor and the girls, the more her focus on her studies slipped away. University, which had once been her dream, now felt like an afterthought. Mia hadn't opened her textbooks in days, and she had missed several assignments. Her grades started to plummet, but she pushed those thoughts aside. It didn't matter. She was having the time of her life, right? One afternoon, as Mia and Rena were getting ready for yet another party, Mia's phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother, a simple text that read, "How's school, Mia? We miss you. Hope you're doing well. Don't forget to focus on your studies." Mia stared at the message for a moment, guilt creeping into her chest. Her mother's words reminded her of why she had come to university in the first place. She had come to make something of herself, to build a future for herself and her family. But now, she wasn't even sure what she was doing. Was she still the girl who had dreamed of making her parents proud? Or had she become someone else entirely? That evening, as Mia and Rena entered another lavish party, Mia pushed the guilt aside. She had already come so far, and there was no turning back. She couldn't let the weight of her responsibilities ruin the fun she was having. She had already given up so much to be here, and now she was going to make the most of it. At the party, Victor found Mia again, as he always did. He had a way of making her feel like the only person in the room. The attention was flattering, and the more he showered her with compliments, the more she craved it. They danced, laughed, and shared intimate moments that made Mia feel special, but at the same time, there was a part of her that felt uneasy. She had never been the type to go out and party all night. She had always been focused, driven. But now, it seemed like she was losing herself in this new life. She didn't know how to stop. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of parties, shopping sprees, and late-night rendezvous with Victor. Mia became one of the most popular girls on campus, but she also became someone she didn't fully recognize. She stopped caring about her classes, stopped putting in the effort she once had. It was as if she was living in a different world, one where nothing mattered except the thrill of the moment. But the fun couldn't last forever. It was a Friday night, and Mia was getting ready to head out for another weekend of partying when she felt a strange tightness in her chest. She had been feeling a little off for the past few days, but she chalked it up to stress. She hadn't been eating well, and the constant partying had taken its toll on her body. But tonight, something was different. She felt dizzy, and the idea of going out didn't seem as appealing as it usually did. Rena noticed her hesitation. "You okay, Mia? You don't look too good," she said, raising an eyebrow. "You've been looking a little off lately. Maybe you should just rest tonight." Mia smiled weakly. "I'm fine. Just a little tired, that's all." But inside, Mia knew something was wrong. She had missed her period, and it had been longer than usual. She tried to ignore it, convincing herself that it was just stress or the change in routine. But deep down, Mia couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something had changed. The next morning, Mia decided to take a pregnancy test. Her heart raced as she waited for the results. When the test came back positive, Mia's world seemed to stop. She couldn't believe it. She, Mia, the girl from the village who had dreamed of becoming someone successful, was pregnant. She felt a wave of panic flood over her. What was she going to do? How had this happened? Victor hadn't mentioned anything about being serious, and Mia didn't even know how to approach him. She couldn't face her family. They had sent her to university to make something of herself, not to get caught up in a world that didn't align with their values. That afternoon, Mia texted Rena, Zoe, and Luna. She needed to talk. They were the only ones she felt she could confide in, but she wasn't sure if they would understand. Would they judge her? Would they think she was foolish for allowing herself to get into this mess? When they arrived at her dorm, they all stared at her in silence for a moment, unsure of what to say. Finally, Zoe spoke. "You're pregnant?" she asked, her voice low. "Well, you know what to do. It's not like it's a big deal. We'll figure it out, okay?" Mia didn't know what to say. She wasn't sure if she wanted to go down the path they were suggesting, but it seemed like the only way to fix the situation. She couldn't let this ruin everything she had worked for, or so she thought. The next few days were filled with anxiety. Mia felt trapped between two worlds, the world she had dreamed of and the reality of the consequences she now faced. She couldn't escape her thoughts. The glamour and excitement of university life had made her lose sight of who she really was. And now, she wasn't sure if she would ever be able to find her way back. Mia sat in the quiet of her dorm room, the pregnancy test lying on the table in front of her. The results had been undeniable. She was pregnant. But the reality of it hadn't fully hit her yet. The words "unexpected" and "unprepared" echoed in her mind, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized that this wasn't just an accident. It was the consequence of everything she had chosen, the parties, the distractions, the life she had fallen into. But how had it come to this? Just a few months ago, she was the bright, hard-working girl from a small village, determined to prove herself at Sundale University. She had come here for a reason, to get an education, to change her future. Yet, somehow, she had let herself become lost in a world of glamour and fleeting pleasures. The night before, Mia had tried to talk to Victor about the pregnancy. He had seemed surprised, then distant. His eyes, once warm and full of affection, now looked at her with something colder, something more detached. "Mia, this isn't what I planned," he had said. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm not ready to be tied down." That's when the truth hit her. Victor wasn't the fairy tale prince she had imagined. To him, Mia had just been another moment of fun, another girl to add to his collection. He wasn't interested in the future. He was focused on the now, on the parties, on the attention. Mia wasn't a part of his future, and in that moment, she realized that he wasn't a part of hers either. Her heart sank as she realized how naive she had been. She had let herself fall into a life that wasn't hers, thinking that the attention, the glamour, the excitement would fill the emptiness inside of her. But all it had done was leave her more lost than before, more disconnected from who she truly was. Days passed in a blur of confusion and fear. She couldn't focus on her studies anymore. Her grades had already dropped significantly, and now, with the pregnancy hanging over her head, it felt impossible to catch up. But what was worse was that the girls who had once been her closest friends, Rena, Luna, Zoe, and Clara, had begun to distance themselves from her. They had their own lives, their own problems, and Mia's situation was something they didn't want to get involved in. It wasn't that they were unkind, but they made it clear that they weren't going to let Mia's problems slow them down. They had always been focused on the next party, the next adventure. They didn't have time for the messiness of real life. Mia was left feeling completely alone, her dreams slipping further away with every passing day. She had come to Sundale to build a future, but now it seemed like everything she had worked for was crumbling. She had let herself get caught up in a world that didn't care about her, a world where appearances mattered more than anything else. It was on one of these lonely nights, sitting in her dorm room staring at the pregnancy test, that Mia finally realized the full weight of her situation. She had fallen into a life that wasn't hers, trying to keep up with a world that didn't value her for who she was. And now, she was paying the price. She could hear her mother's voice in her head, telling her to focus, to stay grounded. "Don't forget why you're there, Mia. Education is the key to a better future." But now, Mia couldn't even recognize the girl her mother had sent to Sundale. The next day, Mia made a decision. She wasn't going to let this pregnancy define her. She wasn't going to let herself be swallowed by the mistakes she had made. She reached out to her parents and told them everything. The guilt weighed heavily on her as she typed the message, but she knew it was time to face the consequences. She couldn't hide from it anymore. Her parents' response was not what she expected. There was no anger, no disappointment, only love. "We're here for you, Mia. Come home if you need to. We'll figure this out together." Tears filled Mia's eyes as she read their message. They weren't angry with her. They didn't see her as a failure. They just wanted to help. In that moment, Mia understood that her future was not defined by the mistakes she had made, but by the choices she would make going forward. Mia knew that leaving Sundale meant giving up the life she had built here, but it was the only way to reclaim her future. She couldn't keep running from the reality of what had happened. She packed her things, wrote a goodbye note to her friends, and took the bus back to her village, ready to face her family and take responsibility for her actions. The road ahead wasn't easy. Mia faced the difficult reality of what it meant to be pregnant at such a young age, but she also knew that she wasn't alone. Her parents supported her every step of the way, helping her navigate the decision to keep the child and move forward with her education when the time was right. Mia enrolled in a local community college, determined to continue her education at her own pace. Over the next few months, Mia learned some hard but important lessons. She had to rebuild her life, piece by piece, but through the support of her family, she began to see that the future she had dreamed of was still within reach. It wasn't the future she had imagined when she first arrived at Sundale, but it was hers to shape. Mia stayed focused on her studies, finding strength in her new path. She gave birth to her child, and though life was difficult, she realized that motherhood gave her a deeper sense of purpose. She wasn't just living for herself anymore, she was living for the future of her child and herself. Looking back, Mia knew that she had been given a second chance. She had learned the importance of making thoughtful choices, of not getting swept away by the moment or the allure of superficial things. She had learned that true success wasn't about fitting in, wearing designer clothes, or partying every weekend. It was about staying true to who you are, focusing on what matters, and building a future that is meaningful, no matter how difficult the journey may be. Mia's story became a powerful lesson for other young women, especially those who may be tempted to chase after empty dreams or let the distractions of life take them off course. It's easy to get lost in the glamour, the parties, the attention. But at the end of the day, it's the choices you make that define who you are and where you're going. Mia had fallen, but she had risen again, stronger, wiser, and ready to take on the world.